Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's Daily Brief Recap. Happy Monday morning. TGIM. Oh, big yawn. I had about an hour and a half long daily brief there this morning. We usually start around 9 o'clock, so here we are doing our sort of free little YouTube trailer. 20th of July, we got through all the celestial crazies. The next big celestial crazy is not till November now. I don't see any sort of let up in either coronavirus or social unrest right now, but we'll see how that goes. As for the market, if anything, the market would almost prefer that it just sort of become a back page item, and the public actually take their attention off of the stock market and off of capitalism. That's the sort of impression that I'm getting right now. We're looking at a lot of volatility studies, and we can see the with this violently flat after a big face rip up there. The volatility is coming out of the market, and actually I still think that Bitcoin's a good leading indicator, and I think you'll see more volatility come out of the stock indexes as we move our way through the latter part of the summer. We'll say that tech still looks extremely strong, and if you can focus your energies on things like tech and biotech and pharma, oh man, there's a lot of money to be made in this market. As you can see, our little short-term breadth indicator is actually already zipping all the way back up into overbought territory again. But you can sometimes find this happens, at least I've found, kind of like in here, where the market will sort of stay frothy on the bid as the slow indicator slowly creeps its way up, and then once both these things get overbought again together, the market's ready to get punched. So keep an eye out for that. Short-term, medium-term breadth, mixed message. Nothing really to get too excited about. And through our daily brief, of course, we like to take a look at a lot of internals. And they're still pulling volatility out of the stock market. Like I said there a moment ago, volatility coming out. And a number of our internal indicators really haven't broken down yet. We're not getting any signals from transports or anything. So I'm leery to call a top in that I don't really think that the downside is too dramatic right now for stocks. They got their guarantee floor from the U.S. Federal Reserve. The people that sort of took a blindside attack at the Western fiat currency system there, and I think they did it through the crude oil market. That attack failed, and we're kind of sitting in the sort of the aftermath right now. The way I look at it, it's probably a little too late to buy, but maybe a little too early to sell. There are always individual setups and individual trades. Like last week, I was bored, so I traded a rat poison stock. It was kind of fun. And banged out a nice little bot win. You can follow along in the Twitter feed to see more on that. And interesting enough, like I think I've said this to you before, I'm long a lot. Through the winter there, I took the opportunity to buy, and then of course I had stuff that didn't really collapse prior to the dump there in March. So those kind of names that are running up, I'm taking profits on. And you can see, there are some poppers here. There is stuff moving. It's just I don't know whether I really have that big of a temperament to go and add a lot of names. And if I'm going to add, I want it to be in like pharma and technology, those kind of names that I think, and I guess to a certain degree, gold we can throw into that camp now. Names that have got the wind at their back. And, interesting enough, when we look at the risk-on risk offers, You can see stocks pressing higher. Hell, you can even see Bitcoin's catching a bit of a bid here. Oil still sort of just bumping up against top end of its range, but look at the gold here is pushing higher as well. Yen, I think people are losing interest in owning yen right now. And same sort of thing in bonds. Especially if stocks really do press higher here in earnest, we're probably going to see bonds come off. And also, too, this is the summer, so it's kind of a weird market right now. All the pros, they're gone. They'll all come back Labor Day, so we're kind of in a funny little silly window here. And I noticed in these funny, silly little windows, you can have crazy things like... we were loading up the market breadth, and the breadth, generally speaking, Dow's down. But you can see, look who's sort of leading the charge here. Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and they're almost like dragging the market up with them. And I've just been cautioning site members, this is exactly like sort of Nifty 50 kind of environment. Late 40s, early 50s, keep in mind 1950, 51, 52, the Western world thought that it was starting a third world war with China. In the late 40s, you had the Berlin airlift, and people thought Soviet tanks were going to be driving all over Western Europe. So in those, highly charged geopolitical environment, stocks, they were in the friendly part of the cycle, and the stocks that happen to do sort of address that particular market, things like Coca-Cola, Procter and Gamble is a really good example from that time period. IBM, Eastman Kodak, RCA, before they got taken over. Those were like the Nifty 50, and they just kept going up day after day after day, month after month after month, year after year after year. We might be in that kind of environment. And I've warned people that, a guy like Joe Granville famously created a whole bunch of technical indicators that I teach students about. But in 1980, kind of the same environment that we're in right now, he came out in 1980 and said, sell stock market, don't buy equities, they're a terrible investment. And, of course, you know what happened the following decade. So, 2020-21, tough year regardless, transition year. What have the Feds actually done to the purchasing power of the currency? This, in my opinion, is such a fascinating study, but the public won't understand this. And I apologize, it's pretty messy. But anyway, the point being that the blue line is what the prices that you see in your newspaper, but the orange line is actual reality. There's the dot-com boom way up there. So you can see we're a million miles away from valuation levels that are even remotely the same. Even though in the newspaper, this is the price that they print. Hey, stocks are at all-time highs. So it's a tough world to make head or tail out of this. What I will say is I do believe in earnest we're heading into a growth cycle. We just have to get through the transition window that usually has a recession wrapped around it. So we're in the recession window. The governments are guaranteeing the bottom in the market. The banks are relatively happy. My opinion here is pullbacks, weaknesses are buying opportunities. You just got to pick like what's going to grow, right? What's like investing in oil. Oil I don't think is a growth story. Investing in electric vehicles, I think that's a growth story. Anyway, only time will tell. Coming back to our massive pivot cycle chart that on the US dollar index, we are basically in that crunch window. And I even remembered saying over the past week or so, I don't know what the hell this is going to look like. I found it fascinating that the euro was pretty much ready to top out. And then all of a sudden this Dutch politician came out of nowhere and said, well, no, we demand that Eastern Europe live up to the same democratic standards as Western Europe, and unless they do that, we're not going to endorse a big bailout. And that sort of threw a wrench into the works. And I'll tell you, it was fascinating is into the ECB conference, and I even talked about this in the Broiler Chicken show yesterday. The whole market set up a US dollar bottom, a euro top, and then this wrench was thrown in. And if I understand correctly, they're still haggling. This was supposed to be a 2-day conference, and now they're in like day 5 of this thing. My hunch is once that's finished and Mr. Dutch politician is satisfied, then we get on with this. But I'll tell you, the bot guys, the guys who shorted this M top, even though it's ugly sin, their short trade is working. And risk assets are pressing up against top end range. I said, if this thing really does resolve in earnest lower here, man, stock market's going to go crazy. The euro's going to go crazy. Commodity currencies should go crazy. And that's not what I'm expecting. But anyway, like I said, strong opinions loosely held. We will see how this goes. And the jury's still out for me right now. Certainly don't have any buy signals, that's for sure. But let's keep an eye on that. Maybe we get like a big FU bar tomorrow. It lets the botters move their stop to scratch, and then we start rallying back off, and the botters would just hop off at scratch if this thing does rally. I don't know. It's conjecture. So, keeping a close eye on that US dollar index and the developments out of Europe and that Euro stimulus package. Like I had said, if US dollar index is down, risk assets should be well bid. NASDAQ's booming higher, small cap, pharma, tech stocks doing awesome. Interesting, our sort of broader measure of the Russell 2000 is just kind of parked here against big stocks. So, no real clear follow through on that, but remember that was Kevin's outside upside reversal there. That was a pretty darn powerful signal, but nonetheless right in the face of that M. So I don't think it's small cap. I think it's the big sort of, like I showed you on that graphic, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, the big boys. And we might get into one of those, FANG kind of stock, but they'll have to change the name to whatever the fancy outperformers are these days. Now, S&P's right up against that high. Interesting how the crude is still just sort of parked here at our second short attempt level. So, just literally parked. Maybe this thing blasts out to the top and we get stopped out again. It's kind of fun just watching this trade develop. Fun, boring, but really good demonstration of sometimes as a trader you just have to be patient and disciplined. And if you did take this 78.6 gap fill, doji, whatever, candle body, high short level, well, you're just sitting there just twiddling your thumbs. Interesting to see how, like we had said earlier, bonds not really doing a hell of a lot. You can kind of see that the bonds now and the gold are consolidating both. They've both set up an interesting range here. But this is the same thing right across the board. On both risk on and risk off, everybody's just parked, sort of waiting for that next shoe to drop. And I don't think it's in anybody's best interest. Exact same thing in Bitcoin. Everything is just parked and we're waiting for that next step. And I don't think it's in anybody's best interest to predict what that next step is. It's going to be whatever it is. And then once that happens and we get the breakouts either to the upside or to the downside, and volatility indicators start showing that this consolidation has resolved itself and we're starting to trend, then we can start framing expectations. Violently flat. You enjoying the summer of 2018? I think that's definitely our theme word. As I had said earlier, I'm not really in the mood to buy a lot of new stuff, but this was a position that I've had on a while. Hopefully everybody can see it's a nice, pretty inverted head and shoulders. The options have quadrupled from my purchase price right now. And the sad part about it is actually I could have gotten an even better price. Look how high this thing went here this morning. I wouldn't, and I've got August options, so I'm going to have to do something here. But lo and behold, what another wonderful story, systemic risk. My broker announced today that they are revamping their platform and that order entry system was offline today. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Broker. You keep telling me more and more you simply don't want my business. And at some point I'm just going to get fed up and move my account. But Anyway, it is what it is. The broker literally probably has cost me now maybe $300-400 on that options trade just by missing that fill there this morning. But anyway, what you give back in the how's it go? What you take in the roundabouts, you give back in the swings, or something like that. Anyway, I mean, as you can see, I mean, I show you day in, day out. I mean, the position's heading in my direction. These brokers, it's almost laughable how unprofessional they are. And I also had pointed out that actually I think what's ending up happening here is the central bankers are going to actually put these smaller banks and brokerages out of business. And you're just going to deal strictly with the central bank. And I think that the coming century is going to be a story about DeFi and how you can basically be your own banker online with your own assets. But it should be a fascinating anecdote, a fascinating story to see how this plays out. You know, I was a full-service broker, and when I was a full-service broker 10, 15 years ago, I knew that being a full-service broker was a dinosaur. I might argue that, like sites like Trax and Binance and, the online brokerage platforms, Fidelity or whatever, they're dinosaurs. They don't even realize it now. But within 20 years, I bet you most of them will be gone. And we'll all be trading on Robinhood. Woohoo! Not. Anyway, heading on over to the corn. There's not really any change to Bitcoin's story here right at the moment. If anything, I feel a little bit proud, happy that my message over the past couple months has been there's not really anything going on here, so don't get too stressed. And hopefully that message has gotten through to a bit of the audience and people haven't been overly stressed because, this crazy Beamish guy who seems to have his head on straight is suggesting that it's just a hurry up and do nothing market, and it has been. The interesting conjecture that I've had with the site today through the daily brief is, if you can't take a market down when it's supposed to go down, guess what happens to price when it's supposed to go up? So this is an interesting window. And same thing with the stock market. The technical picture, of course, was looking, rather nosebleedy when we were up in here. And it's like, well, what goes up must come down. Then, of course, we go through the dilution of the currency. So what is the value of one of these things after one of these dilution? Because keep in mind, you're pricing this in U.S. dollars. What the hell's the damn U.S. dollar doing? It's collapsing in value. So we have to take that into account. I have seen a number of people saying online that they're really liking how the volatility is coming out of price. And that usually is the harbinger of, something is about to happen. You guys probably remember I was doing those bow tie studies back months ago. Then we did sort of the halvening event sort of play out. It feels to me like whatever this consolidation after the halvening event, it feels like this is playing itself out. What I'm worried about here, though, is the volume. This looks very, very disturbing. Notice that look how light the volume was through here, right? And people just sort of get lulled into a false sense of security. Then we start breaking. You can see the downside volume starts to accelerate, but we don't actually hit a bottom, quote unquote, until we actually have like what they call the capitulation volume, or something actually comes in and happens here. So they ramp price up, volume was pretty strong, and then you'll notice, oh boy, everything's gone quiet again. So that's a little bit dangerous. As I was saying earlier, volatility has come out of price, so things like Bollinger Band studies are all tightening up. ATR, average true range, it's winding down. So, if anything, it's good that you're nice and patient and disciplined. My hunch is, for whatever it's worth, seeing the way that the altcoins are acting, I think what you're going to see is that there's going to be like an exit pump on Bitcoin, where Bitcoin finally wakes up and sees all these altcoins rallying, gets jealous. But really, that's an exit pump on Bitcoin for all the altcoin people that pump their coins to then now exit their Bitcoin at a nice big fat profit, and then the market dumps. So don't be surprised. And I've said this repeatedly. I would not be surprised over the next, maybe 3 or 4 weeks. There is a nice serious counter trend rally back up into the 10,000 area. Don't be shocked if that happens. And it just feels like they keep pushing the market down, and it just can't find the sellers that it needs to continue to the downside. So more of that violently flat kind of market state. Great part about it, of course, is that while this is happening, boring, this could happen. And the cool part about it, man, is I have talked to you guys at length about this goddamn Syscoin. I mean, forever I talked to you guys about this. Is there an example of an altcoin that I think actually has a half-decent team behind it, and they're actually nice people? And there's actually a chance to make some money. I mean, everything that you hear me squawking about is all encapsulated on this chart, and so it should not surprise anybody whatsoever to, either see on my Twitter feed or hear from me that I'm banging out doubles and selling into seasonal strength. This is exactly what you're supposed to do when you make money from trading. Buy when it snows, sell when it goes. I'll tell you, it happens a heck of a lot in this world. So, might as well take advantage of it. So, I can't come in on the buy side here. If anything, if I wanted to buy, I have to be nice and patient and wait for some consolidation. But are there other names that look like this? And it's fascinating. Like, there's one that I'm very interested in. I'm really surprised it's just sitting here because I look at the chain. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to show you. This one. Look at this little guy. Can you see the similarities? This was this guy bumping along doing its thing, and here's this one bumping along doing its thing, and gee whiz, what does this kind of look like? You have this very wide W, but, accumulating this kind of name down in here, I really don't think that's a terrible idea. The only thing that gives me pause about this is understanding the seasonal nature. We're coming into the end of this move, so if there is going to be any kind of rally, I like to just generate free coins. It's a fun game that I play, the video game of trading. But if you just wanted to take an entire 100% profit into this seasonal topping window, I wouldn't have a problem with that. So keep your eyes peeled. I don't know what the drivers are for this vert, but like I said, I went on their Twitter feed and they look like they're pretty active, and went on their blockchain and all that. It looked like things are tickety-boo. So keep your eyes peeled. One of the reasons why SIS is moving is there is a driver. So it makes sense that the coin is rallying into that event. The last idea that I'll sort of leave with you here today, and it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek, but it turns out that Kevin's got himself a new girlfriend. Right. I don't know whether Kevin's going to chime in here. He's going to be like, come on, enough's enough. But anyway, he showed me that we used to be in love with this girl at Dash called Amanda's Penthouse, all that. But I thought it was interesting, this Ambrosia. Kevin was sending me these messages. Anna, I can't pronounce her name. But it seems that they have a spokesperson. They always say, sell the sex. Sex sells, sell the sizzle, all that. Does she really have to be wearing that cocktail dress while she's talking about a cryptocurrency? That's capitalism for you. But, I thought it was just a great example of a very typical bot setup. 1 low, 2 lows, 3 lows, nice structure. And you can see, obviously, the community likes the sexy dress. So we're going to affectionately call this Kevin's girlfriend. Ambrosis. I don't know. I'm sure his girlfriend in real life wouldn't appreciate that. But let's keep an eye on that. And of course, if you're hunting for trade ideas, there's one's just staring you right in the face. There's also actually, I did, yeah, the VTC. Actually, I was really interested. I actually went and bought some this morning because I really like the look of this. So there are names, have fun, but at the same time too, understand the seasonal nature of this. You're not buying shit out of bargain prices. There's a lot of momentum built into this, and we're trading strictly on momentum right now. And the ones that you did buy, just make damn sure to get your open orders ready, because you can see they're popping. This is the time of year for the poppy pop. So, just be prepared. Like this mana. Look at what's going on here. You can see the W's coming in. So something's happening. Anyway, okay, well, that's my rant for the day. Sure hope you got some value out of that. All the best, and bye for now.